Start okay. Lead not into your own interpretation. Lead not into your own interpretation. Dealing with the European society, a society of a higher vibration, a higher frequency, a frequency of overseeing that which has come to be the reality of those who have been misled, those who have walked the wrong path, those who have traveled down the wrong road, and those who have accepted the symbols called letters, alphabets, the meaning of words, and the sentence and paragraphs of many books that were not to their best interest. So as we begin this particular sermon, this particular saying, this particular essay, this particular frequency, it all started for many with a system of control that is called capitalism. Capitalism is a system of controlling the inhabitants called citizens and those who are not citizens. So basically, it is a how to govern the people and their boundaries. And this particular boundary we're talking about here is America. And from America, we must look at its location and what is said about the location as far as being on a land that is considered to be a continent. So it's called the Americas. Goes from Greenland to Canada, Alaska, United States, Mexico, Central America, and South America. And on this continent, there are many boundary lines that makes up what they call countries. So with that picture in mind, where this new country called America is Alaska, and then between Alaska and United States is Canada. And the reason that Alaska was brought in as a defense between what is called the old world and the new world. Alaska is considered to be part of the new world, while a couple of miles away is what we call Mongolia and China, and it's called the Bering Strait. straight. And that's where the base of security of Canada and the United States, which is Alaska. So now we got Alaska as being a part of the secret military base, a cold climate, sub-freezing below zero. So they consider to be, the people there were considered to be Eskimos or Indians. This is what they were called. This is not what they were. So moving along here, you have Canada, which is controlled by what we call British, England, UK, the British, the Queen, okay, the Queen. And then you have the United States, and the reason you have the United States, because the United States went against what they call the Redcoats, which was considered to be the Queen of England. So we got the independence, what they called 1776. And they made rules, and they had what they were called slaves. Slavery, or taking war, really slavery is considered to be war. So when you talk about war, you're talking about people who lost in a battle, a fighting battle, and when they lost the battle, they submitted or they got killed. Either they got killed or they submitted to the new rulers. Okay, so these people were called slaves. Okay, so you had different types of slaves. You had people who came from Europe as indentured servants. And as indentured servants, they would come over here. You had two types of indentured servants. You had those who were the bosses, or what they would call them governors, who governed the people that were coming over here after them. These are the ones who owned a charter to bring a system of government governing a company, a corporation, to America. And then those who were criminals, those who were what they would call common people, not the aristocrats, not the higher forms of indentured servants who were given charters to come over here and to pay off the debt or to make money. You had the other ones who were the lower classes, and they called them also indentured servants of the low. And they would work for a period of time, 3, 4, 5, 7 years, and they would be free. They would get a little money, a little land, and be free. But they were also indentured servants, considered to be slaves. So then they found out, or they come up with this plan that they can bring people, kidnap people here on this land that was also different from them. Then they found that they can go to different parts of the globe, bring people and entrap them into what they call slavery. So they just got money hungry for people. So they got all types of slavery, all type of forced labor. So you got your people who had a charter. They was also under the rules of Europe, under the king, different kings. Then you had the people that they sent out from their country and gave them a chance to come to this country, America. And then you got people that they stole from other countries and just gave them the title of slaves and gave them no choice. And then what they did also, the people that was here, they killed the parents, raised the children, and told them that they were Indians, and wrote a whole thing about it, about it's called propaganda, about an identity that was not their true identity. They were not Indians. And people still today call themselves Indians. They were not Indians. Okay, so now we got a system of controlled by those who got charged to come over here and rule. With that charter, they had governors, and then from governors, they broke it up to military overseers. From the military overseers, they did no longer want to have association. So they had the revolution, with Europe, and claimed to have their own independence. But that was not also true. They had the backing, they had the policy making. They were never separated. They claimed to be separated. That was just to make a false interpretation because it was in their DNA. That was them. That's was their duplication. That they broke down as other words. So now we got the communication. The language was English. So they gave everybody English. Now other people were speaking their own language. So when you talk about Europe, and then you're talking about the French, you talk about the Spaniards, you're talking about the Englishmen, you talk about people in Australia, you talk about people all over, Swedish. They're still using the symbols of what they call the English language. When you talk about Germany, they're still using the symbols. They have different fonts, but it's still that European concept in speech, which we call wants and growls, which is totally different from the Semitic language. We have Semitic language, which is considered to be that of what they call Africa, but before Africa, it was called Asia. So when it was called Asia, certain people kept that part of Asia while through propaganda and tricking other people, they start to change the language. By changing the language, they left the rich history of what was real and brought about a fictitious, unreal, unnatural way of living. So with the English, it started trickling down. You see, well, this is Spanish, but the fonts, the letters is English, French, English, German. They changed German, the way we write German, the letters, they changed that, but it's still similar. They they changed the name from what they call races. It was truly at first called tribes. And these tribes can be found in the books. Books is called Bible. Bible means a book. So they took 66 books for the Baptists. They took 72 books for the Catholic. Catholic was the original. They made changes in the way of life of that who came to teach a perfected way and to revise the world of what we call sin, what they call sin. Okay, sin was a deity, just like tax was a deity. So when they say you have to pay a tax, they're saying that you have to give money to a certain deity and they take that money. When they say that you are sinning, they say they don't want you to sin no more. But sin is an action. It is a lifestyle that they want you not to do because they want to conform you to doing what they want you to do. They want to govern you. They want to control you. This control, the word control is continual, CONT, and then ROL is roll. Continue could roll like a circle, but it is continual rule you, as in rule, as in energy, as in taking your energy by way of them putting you in a system of control, which they call work. Work is two words. Is war, WOR, and K, and it's war for the K. Is they call it work. Is you're in a position to do the bidding of the king. Okay, so that's where work coming from. Now we talk about worship. Worship is worship. So you say you're going to church to worship. You're saying you're going to a building. When you get to the building, over it is a sign, right? That whatever the name, it could be Assembly of God. When they say Assembly of God, they're saying those who came together who are God assembling. That's what they say, Assembly of God. So then they say, they'll stretch it and say Assembly of God in Christ. So now, if you don't know, if you have not researched these words to find out the origin and why they are using these words as such, you will be just lost and will be caught under the spell, which they call it hypnotic spell. And this spell leads to you being ignorant That's what they call ignorance, the spell of ignorance. And this spell is the spelling of the different letters, which are symbols that bring forth an emotion that make you make motion to your vehicle that you're inside as a living soul. So let's get back to where we need to be at, which is you have people who came over here and proclaimed by force to be those who are in control. So they taught people untruths to govern them and control them, continue to rule them. So they called it Americas, from the Inca tribe of people and those which was considered to be Amir, okay, which was the love of the world. So the Mir's, the love of the world, was connected to what they call a FIRCE. A FIRCE is considered to be like the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh was the children of those who were called the earth angels, the ones that came here and helped in the process of speeding up the evolutionary process to what we call humans. And in this process, they spliced in with the humans and gave them their color, as to say, which is called HUE, their U. And this U was called, or is now called, melanation. At one time, they called it pigmentation. And this particular color was to let those who had it absorb energy. There's the chlorophyll energy, the energy or the particles from the sun. And they would also be considered the sun or the light, because the light that was within them would be that green light, that healing light. They would be the high priest, the overseers of those who were evolving into their reality. Those who were coming out of the animalistic world, those who were considered to be mankind, a kind of man, and not a supreme man, a difference. So with that, you have those people coming out of a one-cell existence and versified to many cells. Cells started to be organs and started doing certain things to keep the body functioning. But the intellect was not the same, because those that were given the nomination was given an intellect far superior. They were considered to be what they call chosen. This is why we say many are called into this world, but few were chosen to be the high priest, the overseers, those who were taught uh, the truth, the origin of what it was. Now you have those people that was evolving, and their their whole thing was to learn from the overseers, but they didn't take heed, because once the overseers started teaching them, like when you say that the people, the Ottomans, and they took over Spain. Now remember, Spain, France, all these people, originally they were melanated people. And for some reason, it changed. Now in this change, people go back to teach them how to have plumbing, hygiene, to wash, cleanse themselves, to purify themselves outwardly, inwardly, and to have what they call a religion. We have no religion, but those who evolving the religion was made for them as a discipline. And this is where it came in as it got watered down to what they call the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that, thou shalt not do that. Prior to that, it was, I have not done this, I have not done that, which was the 42 principles of what they call Ma'at. Okay, which they attribute that to what they call Egyptian. But the word Egypt is a Greek word. It goes further than that. It goes beyond that. And it goes to what they call Kemet for some. But the word is still, that's not the origin. That's not the original word, Kemet. It's not Egypt, it's not Kemet. But it's what they call Umat. And the closer got to Umat by using what they call a system of tones, which they call vowels. Vowels represent different levels of tones. And these levels of tone manifest into different meanings. So it was not what they call the Kemet. It wasn't the H for Kemet, but it was also the E they used for Emmet as truth. But originally it was Umat or Umat. And that Umat was a sound that would bring you to, it would refer you, and the word refer means free you from those sounds that was given to you to control you, those sound waves, to control your thoughts, to control your actions. But by saying the sound of um, by saying the sound of it will release all the vibrations that we put forth and actually put your state of what they call thinking into the right frame, so it will be able to be, your brain will be able to send oscillating waves out to what is called the mental plane, which will give you your thoughts on what to do and how to do each day. So without that is the cleansing that is now termed as prayer. But the writings of prayer, the rituals that's being said, is not that which will get you where you need to be. So we have a society of Elohim that has now begun to teach the real and to erase the falsehood, the lies, and that which was watered down to keep you from becoming activated. And the activation is the activation of the DNA that is in those who have the melanation and is seen by what we call the 9 here. So we have a system of control that was used to enslave. So now you have a system of constitution, which is a paper that was written for the laws that control. Then you have what they call Bill of Rights, that was another paper that was amending certain things in the original Constitution. And then from that, you have the federal Constitution. And then those who had land grants, those who came together in different locations in this United States, come under a group which is called the federal law, but they had their own constitution. So yeah, each state has their own state constitution. These constitutions are laws that keeps the states together and give people, the citizens, its rights. And by knowing these rules, these laws, these constitutions, it gives each person a knowing on how to engage in the United States. By not knowing these laws, by not memorizing these laws, that person will not be able to be a citizen, but will be a voluntary slave. When you go to fill out an application and you want to work for someone, remember, work is war, warring for the king. The king is the one that gave the charter. The United States is a charter for the people of Europe. This will never stop because you don't want to believe it or embrace the facts. That does not take away the truth. So when you don't want to learn the rules of engagement and how you can build in a system that is giving you a chance, there's other systems of governing that will not allow you to do certain things. Okay, we're talking about United States, which is considered to be the cage, the filthy bird in the scriptures. But we'll also talk about how you can use your melanation. You can use your pigmentation and absorb the energies and the powers of the sun, chlorophyll, and be in tune and raise up to your rightful position as an overseer knowing and learning the many disciplines that it takes. And the first is to know your position when it gets to the Bill of Rights, when it gets to the Constitution, and to master those documents so you will have the rules of engagement in this country. So with that, you have a system that was brought in that you don't know, that you need to learn, and by learning that, we can move forward. But you have to understand that the writings was written for those who were not given the melanation. There was those who were evolving in creation, and has evolved with the thing thou shalt kill, or the strongest will survive. Those who were given the melanation were told to stand up and teach these people thou shalt not kill. That is the responsibility of every Mennonite person. So if you do not teach them, you will not offset their instinct to kill, because that's what it took for them to get up to this level. And you have to let them know that they must stand down, and this is what is called degrees. The degree, any degree, which they have 33 degrees, which gives them the 33, what they call for the spine. You give them a backbone so they can stand upright and be in the sight of their Lord and Master. So what's going on? They have things in reverse. And people say, well, it was intentional, but it was not intentional. It was not intentional that those who called you coon and you didn't know coon meant something special. Those who said that you were black and they didn't like you, that's because black took preference over light. So you wanted to be in the light. You didn't want to go into the darkness of who you are, mentally, and as far as spiritually, and as far as your color. People started to try to run away from who they were because they got tricked, and this trick is called tricknology, the study of many things to take you off your path. One of the things is called religion. We never had a religion. We were the high priest. We was the ones that was in tune with our higher powers that brought us to the many different things that we needed to do for every situation that we was in. We were the builders who built, and we destroyed that which was not good for the entire people, those who had the breath of life in them, those animals that they call, those insects, those things that was under the sea, we were to maintain and to communicate with those. So it was a lot of things that we were to do, but people got into being tricked by magicians, tricked by witch doctors who told them that it was okay, that they can shut them down and they don't have to duplicate. They don't have to have birth. They can control our birth. They can control your birth. They can go up in the gynecologists can go up inside the women. The women were not taking their rightful place. They gave that responsibility to their, what we call, it's not even a duplication, it's called mutation, because they cannot do the same thing as the woman. So when man was given the right to do things that he did not understand, it just brought things in a worse condition. So now you got men, right, who said they came first and think that the number one was the original, or the original number in the beginning. It was a zero, it was a cipher, which we call the HOEWHOLE, the zero, the cipher, which was the womb man. You see, it was the mother, the M, my, OT, out, HER, of her. You see, me out of her. And that would be woman and man. It would be what they call the recessive and the dominance. The dominance being the womb man. But in the writings of man, which is an invention, as he perceived his propaganda, and this was used as trigonometry to take away the woman's proper purpose. And this is how we start off knowing. So you have a system, a capitalistic system, that kept those who was evolving and learning, and kept those who were in the position to be the overseers, but kept them in a state of captivity, which led for what they call depression, and made it what they call oppression. Oppression brought forth depression. Depression brought forth a entrapment and took them out their natural habitat and force fed them with bad habits by way of teaching and programming them in the programming centers that they call schools. Giving them words is called education. Bringing in buildings and putting them in a situation that's called education, which was programming them to be programming them by subjects to be subjected. And the word sub means to be beneath. To be beneath those who took the title of authority. And this title, TITLE, is the word elite. So we have a system of capitalism, which was a very brand new system of control. Before that, you had imperialism. You have imperialism, communism. You have capitalism, socialism, and a couple more isms. And all these was fighting to see which one would bring forth victory. And in the United States, you had what they call capitalism, or democracy, democratic. So it was all a all systems, because the system of the angelic realm was not brought forth. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. You know, when I came out of the I was I don't even know what to call it. But I got back here in I would say November, you know. Met a couple of people just to, markers, to see what time it was, to see how people took knowledge, all the way back from 1977. Now we're talking about 30 years. So we're talking about people that was a child and their mother didn't teach them. They just refused to give them culture, to cultivate them so they can have heritage, so they can have something, you know. So they lost. So we're talking about the lost kids. We're talking about the lost kids. Okay? And people say, well, kids are baby gold, so it's just lost. It's just nuts. Okay, so anyway. So I said, okay, I got enough information. Go ahead, let me feed them a little bit at a time. Can't give too much because they're like clueless.